Hello, fanboys and fangirls. This is Brandon,
And this is Jared.
and you may have noticed a bit of a format change. This is us podcasting.
Yeah, this is the very first time we've tried anything like this.
We've been talking about it for a long time, and it's a much less stressful way to do this sort of content.
a lot easier, yeah. Blame my laziness, but this is just simpler, and I feel like it gets the opinions out there and gets the discussion out there that you guys love.
It makes us more comfortable and more able to express ourselves, I think, too. And we just got a brand new, what is this called?
This is Blue Yeti mic.
Blue Yeti, yeah.
And, most of, I'm sure a bunch of y'all know that are watching this, this is the thing to use, if you're going to be doing any kind of audio recording online. I got my pop filters all lined out and all that, did a little research. So overnight, we've kind of cobbled this together.
We've come into the 21st and a half century.
By doing a radio show.
Yeah.
So, I don't know. Is that like coming into the 20th century, maybe?
Sure.
It's coming into the 20th century, you bet. But, so I guess we're going to begin by just discussing a little bit about what we're doing in this particular episode.
Our first podcast, I think there's no more appropriate subject to cover than Batman vs. Superman: Dawn of Justice.
Oh boy, this is a hard one for us to talk about because there are so many opinions on this.
We never covered it initially because...
Well, we said we would, but we didn't.
Yeah, we never did because I think mostly out of pure disappointment. I mean, we were ramped up to, and we were like, well, if it's good or bad, either way, that we'll still cover it. But after we saw it, it was just, I don't know, we were really deflated over it.
Well, you've got, me and Brandon's takes on the movie. We sort of came from the same place with Man of Steel. Brandon and I have always been, and probably will always be, Man of Steel apologists.
Yeah, absolutely.
We kind of apologized for Man of Steel. We realized there was some...
It has its issues. It strays from some of the nature of the character, but not in so much of a way. I could always say, well, this is the first movie, and we've got to see some different things.
Yep.
We saw what happened in Superman Returns when somebody tried to do something too traditional. I'm glad that they were intent on steering fairly far away from that. Just give us something brand new, even if it rubbed some people the wrong way.
Well, here's the thing. If I was going to be locked in a room and you told me, you got to either watch Superman Returns again and again or Man of Steel again and again, I'd go with Man of Steel.
Oh,
because, I felt like it was better.
Yeah.
So, we like Man of Steel. I would say Man of Steel is a solid 8 out of 10 movie.
Yeah.
It's got some great drama in it, and I agree with a lot of the critics that the action becomes just oppressive.
Yeah, nauseating.
I remember actually watching Man of Steel, and when he finally took Zod to space.
Yeah.
That's right, people, freaking space. When he did that, I remember I just had to close my eyes for a minute and just say, you know
just
what?
Breathe.
This is making me sick and panicky.
I actually went to see it at the IMAX.
Oh, and how did you stand that?
If I hadn't seen it in a regular theater before, I wouldn't have been able to. I would have been completely overwhelmed.
I could barely take it in a regular theater. But,
oh Lord!
But there was lots of good things about the movie. So flash forward to Batman v Superman, and we'll make this quick, and you can skip to the time code if you just want to get to the thoughts about Ultimate Batman v Superman. But basically, we saw Batman v Superman, and it was kind of a mess.
It was, yeah,
kind of a mess.
It was too long and boring through big stretches of time. And it's a film. I liked the action in the movie. I liked the climactic battle, but it took so long getting there that by the time we got to it, I don't know. It just felt I was numbed from having to wait so long.
Well, I watched it, and Brandon, he I think truly thought it was kind of a wreck.
It was, yeah.
And
my feelings were definitely more negative than Jared's initially.
And I thought it was a wreck too. But there were so many things that I liked that were embedded in the movie. Mm-hmm. And also, you've got to keep in mind that, to me, I think the third act really gets going.
Yeah.
And then it's like, this is turning out okay. But usually, I always tell Brandon, if a movie ends well, all's well if it ends well.
Yeah.
But I couldn't feel good about saying that this time.
Yeah.
Because the rest of it was too murky.
It was, yeah. And there's just too many offbeat character moments. I felt like, I don't know, Superman in the movie was... not a very likable person, and that's a criticism that lots of people leveled at the Superman we saw in Man of Steel. And I never felt that way. So I guess I sort of, for the first time, saw where they were coming from. I loved everything about Batman in the movie. It's probably the ultimate example of a great piece of casting and a great performance lost in a poorly put together film. And I really feel like that's that's the prime issue. You know, it was just incredibly poorly put together.
You talk about, problems with the movie, and we're probably going to talk about this a lot more after seeing the Ultimate Cut, just based on things I've heard about it. But if you look at the Africa sequence at the beginning of the movie, it's a disaster.
Yeah.
I can't really explain what happened in Africa. I don't know why people blame Superman necessarily. I'm not even really sure what the bullet had to do.
Yeah.
And before,
and Jimmy Olsen's there for some reason.
And gets his head blown off.
Yeah.
I saw that, and when I found out it was Jimmy Olsen later, it was kind of the death knell for me defending the movie. I couldn't defend it anymore.
No,
after that.
that's
I thought to myself, you know what? Maybe Zack Snyder is crazy.
Yeah.
Maybe he's a bad director. And unfortunately, I had never questioned those things before about Zack Snyder. I always thought he just got a bad rap from people. And I loved Watchmen. It was one of the
I
best.
will present as evidence as we go into this. We loved the theatrical cut of Watchmen. I think I saw it in the theater 3 or 4 times, at least 3. And it was just a great experience, I thought, and a terrific adaptation. Again, it had its detractors. There were a lot of people who didn't like it, but a lot of the people who didn't like it really liked his director's cut. And so there's been a lot of talk that, Warner Brothers has done it to Snyder again, that they've taken, a film because it's too long and too heavy, for a wide release, that they've gutted it, and that this is a superior product. So I'm very, very curious.
I certainly hope that that's the case when we watch this, and I'm eagerly awaiting this. I just want to see if it changes my perceptions about the movie. For me, I don't have the same problems with the movie that other people had. I don't like Jesse Eisenberg, Lex Luthor. Yeah, it was weird, but I was entertained by it. I thought it was funny.
I'll get into my Eisenberg Lex Luthor thing just really briefly. It is the antithesis of Luthor in a way, because Lex Luthor has to be a person who's calm and collected on the surface, but behind the scenes, he's mentally ill and power hungry. And nobody in the world of Batman versus Superman: Dawn of Justice could possibly be surprised when Jesse Eisenberg, Lex Luthor, turns out to be a crazy madman. He's so mentally ill on the surface that it's so obvious that he's a supervillain. As soon as you see him.
This is going to be a apologist cop-out thing to say, and I'm not really an apologist about much of anything about this movie. But I will say that when I watch it, in order to rationalize that aspect of it, and I know this is going to sound crazy, but Lex Luthor, he keeps talking in the movie about his father. He keeps making reference to his father. And I can almost see his father being comic book Lex Luthor.
Yeah, I've thought about that too.
And he's more like Alexander, Luthor from the 90s.
I've certainly thought about
red
that
hair
too.
And all that. And I really think that's what Snyder. Somebody looked at that and thought,
said,
"Yeah,
hey,
that's it." And I know that character doesn't act like that.
Maybe we'll see him in the gold suit from Infinite Crisis.
Yes, that's a great idea. Hopefully, we'll see.
You never know.
But yeah.
I'll tell you, it's a good performance. It's one of those things where, even if it's not what I feel like is appropriate to the comic books, I like the performance. I feel like maybe Eisenberg, and there's rumors that he was possibly approached to be a different character in the movie, and that he became Lex Luthor
I'm betting
over time.
It's Flash or something, which would be hilarious considering when you look at Rosenbaum.
Yeah.
Michael Rosenbaum. Is Michael Rosenbaum?
Yeah.
Right? From Justice League Unlimited, who played Lex Luthor on Smallville, but also was playing the Flash's voice in Justice League Unlimited. So it's kind of funny, but that's what I'm betting, and a whole lot of other people bet on that as well. So who knows if it's accurate? Who knows if it's right? But that's all I got.
But we're curious, and we're willing to give it a chance. I'm not just going to because of my disappointment in the theatrical cut. I'm not going to shut out the extended version. So.
Right. So. I don't know. We'll see what happens.
We shall see.
So we'll return in just a moment, and till then, try not to let Lex Luthor say ding, 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 or ring, 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 or ding, ding, ding. Too much, which is the worst part of the movie, by the way.
Had to be right at the very end. Had to be.
It spoiled, that great moment between Batman and Lex Luthor. Yeah. Okay, last rant. That was it.
Okay,
that was it. All right. But okay, we're going to go watch it now.
Yep.
Wish us luck.
Take care.
Ding, 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 ding. Okay. Ding, 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 ding. All right, so we just got done watching the incredibly long Ultimate Batman v Superman cut, and it's been a heavy 3 hours.
Yeah.
So Brandon, I'm gonna let you start off. Just unabashed first reaction. What do you think?
I liked it a lot. We've talked about this every once in a while. There's a few examples where you have movies that are so improved by an alternate or extended cut. The most extreme, I think, is the 2008 Rambo.
Yeah, that's the most extreme.
A movie that was actually awful in the theater.
Yeah, it was horrible.
It was just not put together right at all. That actually turned into a terrific movie with Stallone's director's cut. Batman vs. Superman theatrical wasn't as bad as Rambo 2008 by any stretch.
Not quite there, no.
But this is still probably a more extreme difference even. It's very good. It addresses every issue that is... in two categories, it sweepingly addresses every issue. It addresses the confusing story aspects, the whole Africa subplot actually makes sense. You're actually given all the information finally. And then a lot of the character motivations and character drives, which seemed offbeat and inaccurate in the theatrical film, are fleshed out. It's still not perfect. I still think it suffers from some pacing issues. There's so much more interesting stuff going on that I didn't feel as much of a need for action, but I still feel like there maybe needed to be another action sequence somewhere in the middle to break up a little bit of the flow. But it's still just an extreme improvement. I mean, just a practical 180 turnaround from the quality of the theatrical release to this one.
So as for my take, I totally agree with Brandon. Before we recorded this, we hadn't actually shared any opinions about what we'd seen or anything. But, I mean, good Lord. You talk about, an improvement for a director's cut or some kind of ultimate cut. This one, it was... it's funny to reference bullets because that was the most confusing subplot, the one about the bullets from Africa in the original cut. But this is sort of the magic bullet director's cut that only comes around like every so often, that actually managed to address nearly every single problem I had with the movie. I was assured by people that had seen it when I described my problems that I had with the movie to them. My problems were nonsensical back stories that didn't pay off, like the Africa sequence. My other big problem was, horrible pacing. My other big problem was a Superman that wasn't sympathetic, wasn't interesting, and wasn't in the movie all that much. And what we got was a cut that it solved practically every one of them. And for me, it's kind of like what Brandon said. The only problem that you could say might be left is there is still some pacing issues for the first half of the movie, especially. There's some real pacing issues there. There's a couple of scenes that just start to drag on a little bit. Some of the stuff with Lex Luthor and the Senator, that kind of drags on a little bit. There's just a few other things in the movie that seem a little too scene by scene. They're not broken up enough by
they're not punctuated correctly.
Yeah, they're not punctuated by a big action sequence, and they don't have a strong enough narrative connection to be kinetic with each other. It gets a little listless.
Yeah, it becomes a pretty static film for a period of time.
But because of this additional material, where they beefed up the Africa sequence at the beginning, with all the stuff that makes it make sense about why Superman could possibly be framed for any of it, where they burn the bodies and all that, I see that and I'm like, oh, okay, yeah, a bunch of charred remains of people, sitting around. Okay, I get it. And it also sets up KG Beast, the white Portuguese henchman who's supposed to be KG Beast from the comics. Yeah. It sets up his, flamethrower affinity. It does a few different things and shows all the widows coming out and upset.
It goes in the theatrical cut. Like you were saying before, it was never clear to me what Superman had done to upset anybody.
Exactly, yeah.
Nothing happened. He kills the dictator guy.
Well, and let's be clear about something. In this version,
maybe
the government is sending in a drone and all this stuff that Superman actively destroys to save Lois's life. So they've already got a motivation now. They're like, Superman, he's a loose cannon. He destroyed our stuff, which is a funny callback to the end of Man of Steel. Yeah, it's in line with Man of Steel.
When he destroys the drone.
That's exactly what I was about to point out. it's the same kind of thing where Superman destroys government property, and he's kind of a people's avenger, you know, pardon the phrase avenger, but, you know, the original Superman of the 30s and 40s was more of a
for the people,
social activist, anti-government, anti-establishment.
Exactly.
He'd take you out for not, you know, taking care of your kids or beating your wife or something. Superman would show up, he'd teach you a lesson, tell you better be good or he'll be back. You know, I like that kind of Superman, and New 52 explored that sort of anti-corporate kind of, you know, for the little guy Superman, and I feel like Snyder, that's
tapped into some of that, absolutely.
Yeah, and people give Snyder a hard time about his version of Superman, and I was one of them after I saw the theatrical cut of this movie. Let's talk about Superman's expanded stuff he has in this movie.
Well, the first thing that I want to hit on is my absolute favorite alteration of the film is immediately on the drive home after we saw it originally. One of the big things that we were complaining about was what a wasted opportunity it was that they blow up the government building, the hearing building, and that there is no element about Superman trying to be framed for it. We were like, that would have been perfect if Luthor had tried to frame Superman. It would turn the whole world against him.
And we were sure that was going to be the case.
That would make perfect sense.
I remember seeing the explosion in the movie and thinking,
great. Yeah.
This is getting good.
That's what's really going to drive Batman.
Like, you know, he's going to look like a terrible person. Yeah. Batman's really going to go after him now. He's going to decide to kill him. Like, he was thinking about it before, but now
it's that's the hard evidence.
And when they didn't do it, and for some reason they took it out of the theatrical cut. I don't know
exactly, but it's restored here. You know, it's covered in the news. And you see it.
They link him to it. Nancy Grace is talking about Superman being involved, which is Nancy Grace. You know, Jon Stewart was also in this version of the movie and was not in the theatrical version.
Yeah, a cameo, which is also funny because there is a Jon Stewart in the fictional universe of DC Comics too. So
that's true. I hadn't even thought about that.
So now they can make a joke.
Green Lantern.
Now that we know that Jon Stewart, the comedian, is a real personality there too.
But yeah, that was huge when they finally addressed that, and they shown, like, you know, they had an effigy of Superman that they were burning. Children at home were terrified watching it on the news. Not only does it frame Superman appropriately in a way that I think modern media would try to do it.
Exactly, yeah.
But it actually shows that there's a bunch of people at home that are sort of terrified by people even insinuating that Superman could do something like this. And in this new version of the movie, it feels like Superman is more widely loved by people. Yeah. And I mean, right after the explosion, you know, at the Capitol.
In this, you see him helping, the injured civilians and everything.
Because that was one of our big complaints about the original, was that it seemed like Superman was totally apathetic towards anybody in America anyway.
He just disappears, and
anybody but Lois, he didn't care.
And part of the subplot or the element of him being implicated, or the attempt to blame him in the explosion, is that you can almost understand why he would disappear, you know, for a few days and be, you know, so dejected by society.
Yeah, I mean, I saw that and I remember thinking it was so stupid that Superman decided to go find himself and the worst time possible.
Exactly.
And when I saw it here, I said to myself, oh man,
well, I'd feel that
I
way
would leave too. This is horrible. And then Superman doubts himself in the theatrical version and says, I don't know if I just wasn't looking for that bomb. And I remember hearing that and thinking, oh Lord, Warner Brothers, no, don't say that Superman was, don't insinuate that he didn't want to even save those people because he was mad at them. Don't insinuate something like that. But in this new cut,
they come back around to it when Lois is unraveling the mystery. It's like, oh, it was a lead line case.
Yep, lead lining in the chair, and you're thinking, okay, all right, yes, Superman was just doubting himself. There's no way, you know, he couldn't see it. That's why he didn't get it.
There's in the theatrical cut, you know, one of the biggest issues is that Luthor's plot is so sort of wonky and unfollowable that it makes it difficult to understand why they would hate each other so much, why Batman and Superman would come to odds with the heat that they do. But in this one, it's all laid out so correctly, and you follow it so well, and you can really understand the points they both get to where they're so, frustrated with each other, and so willing to go into the battle like that.
Well, in the theatrical cut, there was an identification that Lex Luthor was full well aware that Clark Kent was Superman. He had figured it out, and he was, taunting him and misleading him that whole time, so that, of course he kidnapped his mother, so naturally he knows who Superman is. That was made very clear, theatrical cut. But what wasn't made very clear is, does Lex Luthor know that, Bruce Wayne is Batman? And this cut, they make it abundantly clear that
Yeah.
he does know Bruce Wayne is Batman. I believe at the end they restored some dialogue at the prison sequence, right?
Yeah.
Where Lex Luthor
When he says it
acknowledges.
out loud,
yeah.
I mean,
he said, "But no one would ever believe me. I'm just crazy."
Yeah.
You know.
Speaking of that prison scene at the end, we got a great name drop, and I don't know if we want to spoil it for anybody. If you haven't seen it,
Yeah, I'll tell you what. If you haven't seen it, why don't you skip ahead about a minute
Yeah.
from now, just in case, because we probably wouldn't talk about it too
Yeah,
long, but just in case.
yeah.
But go ahead.
Yeah. So in the theatrical cut, Batman shows up. He talks to Luthor for a minute, and you get the lead in to whatever the New Gods element of the Justice League film is going to be, and you get that still. But also, Batman lets Luthor know that he's being transferred to Arkham Asylum. That he's arranged to have him locked
Isn't that
up.
great?
And so that's great because that's the only real link that you get into Suicide Squad now, because we know Suicide Squad will be starting off with a lot of the inmates there. So just little touches like that
Have
they
any
wasted.
if you've ever watched the Steven Seagal movie Fire Down Below, it's Fire Down Below, right?
Yeah,
well, at the end, Chris Christopherson is
they go get him at the
apprehended,
casino. Yeah.
and Seagal makes a threat to him about the prison he's going to send him to.
Yeah.
And if you've seen Fire Down Below, you know what I'm talking about. And it sure sounds like Batman's making the same threat to Lex Luthor here. And I'm just saying, if you've seen Fire Down Below, you know what I'm saying. And oh my goodness, I started laughing uncontrollably when I finally pointed to the screen after Brandon said that Batman's Steven Seagal. I said, Lex Luthor's Chris Christopherson! I'm more worried that Lex Luthor is Chris Christopherson, actually, than Batman being Steven Seagal.
Yeah.
But you see what I mean. Just, watch Fire Down Below. But,
It's brilliant, though.
yeah.
A great touch,
Goodness. So many things were addressed. Here's one of the things that was a big, big, big thing for me, was that we see Clark Kent do all this, investigative reporting stuff, and he goes and, meets people in Gotham and tries to talk to normal people. And you suddenly, he's investigating the guy who got branded and got killed in prison. You begin to understand, oh, yeah, Superman is beginning to see Batman as just this horrible monster. And of course he's going to be motivated to try to stop him.
Yeah.
And now that they've restored the scene where he talks to the widow of the guy who got the Bat brand on him around the beginning of the movie, and she says, people like that, you don't stop by just, talking or writing an article.
You can't stop
You've
them
got to
with
stop
words.
them with your fists. And so right after that, about the next time we see Superman, that's when he wrecks the Batmobile and does all the hardcore threats to Batman. And when you see it without the other scene, in the theatrical version,
It seems like Superman's gone off half-cocked,
you just think, oh my goodness, man,
he's really,
please.
he's really running wild.
But now that he's had to comfort a widow and a baby over Batman's supposed, actions, not realizing KGB, was the one responsible.
Yeah.
He's trying to cover his tracks. But now that you see that, you're like, oh, okay. Yeah, Superman, he doesn't like for women or children to be hurt, and that's his big thing. So once again, another callback to the Superman of yore, the Golden Age Superman.
And I also appreciated, there's that sequence, in one of those sequences, he goes and speaks to people at the apartment building, looking for the,
I love that.
the lady from the Africa scene. You do in the only point in the film you get to see somebody who really is sympathetic to Batman too, because there's there's the character who says, well, he didn't do anything to anybody that didn't deserve it.
That's right.
So
the people in Gotham, I get the feeling, especially poor people, understand that Batman is a social avenger to the extreme in Gotham, and that he'll never ever bother anybody that doesn't deserve it.
Exactly.
Batman's trying to clean up the streets on a very street level. And I really like that.
Yeah, me too. And there again is another element where Superman, Clark Kent, knows that, or he could be aware of that if he was interested in figuring it out, but he's so bent on his own mission too,
right?
That it's exactly like Batman. He's not stopping to see, well, maybe he is a good guy, or maybe I should figure out how good of a guy he is. Instead of just going at it, full force.
I also like that there's a reference to the way that Batman, and this is something we just had to read between the lines about in the actual theatrical cut, that Batman has become oppressively mean and extra dangerous in the last 2 years since he saw Superman do that. He has went from avenging his parents and society to avenging the Earth in a way, from the destruction that he saw caused. He's avenging all of his friends and people that were like family to him at the Wayne Tower in Metropolis. Superman caused something vicious to come out in Batman that Alfred mentions, in the theatrical and the Ultimate Cut, when he says that something like a Superman appearing takes good men and makes them cruel, which is on the surface maybe a reference to Lex Luthor, but if you think about it, really he's trying to tell
Batman.
Bruce, you're becoming a really bad dude.
Mm-hmm.
And that scene we were talking about with the old African American gentleman that's doing the scratch off
Yeah,
ticket
well,
with the
I love
bat
that.
symbol, that was very funny. And
Yeah.
it said "Forever" on the ticket, which I thought was, to me, that's a Batman Forever reference.
I hope so. I would.
I love Batman Forever. And when he says, he's extra mean or something like that, he's
these last 2 years he's been extra mean.
Yeah, he's been just mean and just he's out to get him all of a sudden. And I think that we need to understand, and people, that need to understand that there is a precedent for Batman to act like this in such a violent and volatile way. But I really appreciated that there was an acknowledgement that just in the last little bit, Batman went off the hinges. And there's probably a reason for Superman to be really concerned about Batman's behavior. If he would have kept going in that direction, I really think Batman would have pretty much just become psychotic.
Yeah.
So it's like an intervention. The movie's an intervention.
Well, he kills so many people in the movie. Not just KG Beast.
Boy. The kill count is insane.
At one point, he when he's in the Batwing at the end of the film, he blows up something like 3 or 4 trucks and SUVs in a row. Must have killed dozens of people. Just plows right through.
There's a kill count video out right now, and I never exactly agree with kill count videos. They kind of get iffy on the way they count some things or don't count some things. But just on a surface level, I'm positive that the amount of people Batman actually took out and killed in this movie was probably somewhere around the 40 mark.
Yeah.
I mean, really, I think it was probably around 40, because you have to think about people who, the guy who he slams his head through a wood floor. I mean, that guy's going to die later from his injuries.
Well, when he's rescuing Martha at the end of the film, he smashes the guy's head against the wall, and in this cut, you see the blood smear on the wall.
Oh,
that guy's dead.
He's gone.
If he's not dead, he's going to be like comatose.
Yeah, he ain't the same.
No.
He ain't going home the same.
No, not at all. This Batman is out for blood.
He is, and that's why I like it so much that the old dude identifies that Batman is crazy now, and that people are afraid of him.
Yeah, early on, when we were first sort of getting hints at what some of the Batman elements of this film might be leading up to the release, there was a rumor that Batman, may have been retired for some time. Like The Dark Knight Returns. He's not been Batman for several years, and this spurs him out of retirement. But I think the Ultimate Cut pretty firmly, and it's never really addressed completely. I mean, in the theatrical version, and because there's no identification of Batman and Man of Steel or anything. This one, I think, pretty concretely, because like Jared said, when the character references, it's just the last 2 years. I think it means that every Gotham City has probably been very well aware of Batman as a shadowy figure for a long time. It's just been in the last couple of years that he's kind of gone off the rails and has become an issue, and has been more sort of a worldwide or a national presence. That's something that Clark Kent wouldn't even notice in the first place.
And this is something for another discussion at another time, but people can say whatever they want, but I'm sure that bent is in the movie because there was still a possibility that they would hire Christian Bale to be Batman and combine the continuities. That they were going to go with he's been Batman for years. He's quit for a while. He decided to come back because of Superman. I'm positive that that's the slant that they took.
It was very first written, with the possibility, well, let's see what we can do.
Yeah, let's see if we can bring him
that
back.
Was, and it's not been mentioned in a while, but that was a pretty substantial rumor for a very long time, and I'm sure that it was something they attempted and just couldn't work out. But.
I'm glad that they didn't do it.
Yeah. At
the same time, a certain part of my heart aches a little bit that they didn't do it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, me too.
I have such an emotional attachment to the Christian Bale Batman. I mean, really, his performance as Batman means the world to me. I wouldn't change a thing about any aspect of those 3 movies, but like I said, that's a discussion for another time. If you guys want to hear Nolan discussion or whatever,
we'll have to do that at some
point. Put
it
in the comments, and
well, let's talk about the other Batman. Josh Brolin was apparently approached by Warner Brothers. He talked about it. He said he just couldn't do it, and it turns out it seems like he probably couldn't do it because he had agreed to play Thanos already.
I would say that was more of a case that Affleck just beat him out.
Could be.
That I really think that Brolin was like a backup plan, and they thought, we can actually get Ben Affleck, because you remember the Affleck rumor was around even before the Brolin rumor was around.
Oh yeah,
like real early. Almost the very first person to be mentioned that anybody said was because Warner Brothers has approached him, and he said no.
He was a golden boy for Warner's at the time. He just done Argo and everything.
Can I just say that I'm pleased as punch about Ben Affleck Batman? Like, really. Yeah. Really, I think he's just wonderful.
As if the internet hasn't heard it enough, we have to throw in our.
I know, but isn't he so great?
It's worth, it's worth it. He's fantastic.
Oh,
and a great Bruce Wayne too. I mean, I think
so
that's
good. That's paramount.
Yeah,
isn't it?
exactly. And something that has been sort of pushed to the side with previous adaptations. You really see, and it's even mentioned in dialogue. A Batman interrogated 6 people, but Bruce Wayne is the one who really got.
Bruce Wayne gets the job done.
Yeah,
and I love Bruce Wayne in this movie, and
he's so dapper too.
He already is, isn't he?
Yeah.
I love Ben Affleck just in general, and have forever.
Yeah, I never fell off the Affleck train.
No, Ben Affleck's always been great to me.
Since his Kevin Smith days, I've been just the biggest fan.
Yeah. Oh lordy, I was Daredevil's biggest fan.
Oh yeah.
And that's what got me into the character. I love that movie. And here he blows it out of the water as Batman. There's one more element of the extended cut that I feel like we really need to give some attention to. And this is something that made me just want to cheer when I watched the movie. It's the African American lady from the beginning, the African lady from the country. I can't remember the name of the African country they were in. But when she gives her really dramatic testimony about how Superman killed all those people in her village, I remember in the theater just thinking, why would she say this? Yeah. How could she have possibly construed anything Superman did? And then I thought at first, when I watched the theatrical cut, I thought, are they trying to leave it ambiguous because they didn't show everything about that scene and make you think, maybe Superman went off the road?
Yeah.
No, nobody's going to believe that. Nobody's going to think that for a second. And it ends up just making you feel crazy because you feel like you don't understand anything that happened at the beginning of the movie.
And it makes the Holly Hunter character, the senator, look like an idiot.
Like a fool.
And since we're from Kentucky,
I know,
too, I didn't appreciate that.
I didn't appreciate it a bit. I hated it when I saw the movie and I thought, oh, God, they're making Holly Hunter from Kentucky. They're making her look like a half-cocked nitwit.
Yeah.
And, I don't want that. I want us to seem intelligent. And thanks to the Ultimate Cut, which we're about to get into those changes, intelligence restored.
Yeah.
Because it turns out,
lo and behold,
that woman was being forced, blackmailed by KG Beast and the white Portuguese guys to say all this stuff.
Yeah.
That she was being coerced, and none of it actually happened. They're hunting her. They're trying to kill her so that they can shut her up before she tells somebody it was false. She tells Holly Hunter it was false in a great scene. She instantly knows what she's got to do, and then when they go to the trial at Capitol Hill,
that's why she's so. That's why she's so nervous and so.
The line, she says, "This is a day for truth." And when you see it in the trailer and you saw it in the theatrical cut, you thought, why is she wanting to nail Superman so badly on this? What did he do? And in this extended cut, you're like, she's bracing herself.
Yeah.
She's gonna come out.
Luthor.
She's gonna out Luthor. And she's going to tell everybody that, even though we got to hold Superman responsible for his actions still, and we've got to work with him a little bit better.
It turns out this time.
He did not do this, and that she mentioned shadow committees, and that's what it's about, that there's been sabotage, to make it look like Superman's a bad guy. That was also the moment I started yelling at the screen.
Warner Brothers, what?
Yeah, come on, Warner Brothers. Why would you? We need this information. We need this information again and again.
And, early on there were rumors that said that Warner Brothers was afraid, or, people at Warner Brothers were afraid that the movie was too big and too... Not my words, their words. The movie was too smart for people. That it was too smart for the average audience for the Marvel Studios films.
Universe.
And I hated that, and I was like, well,
that's a horrible way to put it.
I surely hope they never said that, and I'm sure it was said by somebody at some point. I don't doubt that one bit. But watching the film, I feel like, and I don't know, because you never know how people are going to react to it. It seems so much more intelligible and so much more digestible. I don't know. It came down to the length. That's all there is to it. The movie clocked in too long,
and it is too long.
Let's
be real. Ultimate Cut here is too long.
It's much too long. Yeah.
And it needs 20 minutes took out of it at least.
Yeah. Which
is what they did, but
what they had the theatrical cut was 2.5 hours. This is 30 minutes longer, 3 hours long. They should have replaced 20 minutes worth of footage from the theatrical cut with this 30 minutes of additional footage.
Yes, they unfortunately they picked and chose the wrong footage. I wish that we could somehow take out all of the Justice League reference scenes. Can we talk about what's still wrong with the movie that they didn't fix?
Yeah, that's a big issue. Because there were rumors that was going to be presented a different way in the extended edition, or that it had originally been presented differently, and that's the hokiest, most terrible part of the movie to me,
horrible.
honestly. It's
still there.
Yeah. And I don't know if it's a matter of they didn't know what else to do with them or what it was.
Bruce Wayne's still sending them QuickTime videos and on Instant Messenger. I think on Red Letter Media they said AOL Messenger. He pulls it up. It's still stupid. It's still horrible. It still stops the movie dead. The music in some parts is still ridiculous.
Yeah.
Every time when Wonder Woman shows up and they start on that.
It's like they were trying to do something as cool as the theme song to Justice League Unlimited, and they couldn't do it.
It sounds like a reject theme from Batman Beyond, and that's insulting Batman Beyond quite a bit. It ruins the tone for those scenes. If you look at the scene in the trailer where Wonder Woman shows up with the shield and all that, there's no music, and it's really cool.
It is, yeah.
And then you look at it in the movie, it's like...
Yeah. Kind of, like I said, hokey, kind of...
It's ridiculous.
Yeah.
And then the same music plays when Batman opens up the picture of Wonder Woman, which is, a hilarious studio photography
promotional
picture.
image. Yeah.
I mean, it's like Batman got this as like a free CD at Best Buy for like buying a Batman DVD, like Batman meets Scooby-Doo. He got this CD.
Yeah.
They're like, here you go, Mr. Wayne. Thanks. oh, this is great. I like the one with Joker and Penguin. Sir, Joker and Penguin are in both. They're in both. The one where he says, he dresses up as like an urchin in the woods. I like that.
The troll.
Okay, all right. Not the one with the old woman. That one sucks.
The worst one, yeah.
That one sucks.
The one that wasn't even good enough to get released on video.
No, it wasn't on the VHS. Sorry. You know what we're talking about if
you're a real fan.
Batman. Yeah, if you're real. But yeah, that's still a huge problem. And the music takes you right out of it. And I feel like those scenes would be a lot more bearable if it wasn't for two things. Music and those stupid logos that are on...
He's gone ahead and Lex Luthor has copyrighted like these logos for the characters. You see the little Cyborg C, the Wonder Woman logo, the Aquaman A, and the Flash lightning bolt.
I will give him a pass on Wonder Woman because he could have found historical documents that referenced her as Wonder Woman.
Yeah.
And he thought, WW, how fun is that?
And it all,
slapped them together.
And you sort of see the design on her chest, too, on the
Well, that's
armor,
true,
so.
yeah. So there's that. But Cyborg?
And she's obviously been around for so long, but the other ones,
it doesn't make a lick of sense. Yeah. He's put a lightning bolt on the Flash. I understand why he would do that because there is electricity in that footage going everywhere where Barry's going through the Speed Force. The other big thing that the movie doesn't fix, though, is Flash.
Yeah.
Oh, it's horrible.
Yeah.
Oh, it's awful. And Superman Returns, I'll never forget when I realized the movie was awful. And it was.
Yeah.
I hate that. It was a great effort on Bryan Singer's part. So many great things about the movie. But the moment I realized it was horrible was when when the kid
pushes the piano,
murders the guy on the boat.
Yeah.
And I thought, no, they did that. Yeah. Oh no. Same exact sinking feeling in my gut. I hadn't had it in all those years, 10 years since I had that feeling in 2006. And I saw the Flash show up and come to the screen. This slubby-looking, mustachioed twerp that comes out in Flash. Like horrible robot Flash costume.
Awful Iron Man cosplay.
And he starts with the, I'm too late! You're right about it!
Find us!
It did nothing for me to like Ezra Miller as the Flash. It's already an uphill battle because I love Grant Gustin so much. And I really love Ezra Miller. He's a great actor. And he's been great in every single thing I've ever watched him in. Everything. But it did nothing for me. And I don't think it's Ezra's fault either. This is not on him. Poor design choices.
Yeah. Just poor placement. It's just
horrible.
It's a scene that's supposed to, titillate people.
Yes.
Get
them excited.
Like in the Marvel films. And it was
and most people didn't even realize it was supposed to be the Flash.
Exactly.
Because it looks so
I had
bad.
so many people ask me, who was that guy? Who was the robot guy who came through?
Even high profile review, like the Red Letter Media review, I was watching it and they were like they called him the wrong superhero name. Yeah. And finally, I think Rich Evans clarified. He was like, that's actually supposed to be the Flash. And everybody was amazed.
Yeah. Oh, that's
They were amazed. Oh, that's the Flash. And guys, that's not their fault.
Yeah.
That's not general audience.
It should be obvious,
I mean, and they're not even a general audience. That it should be totally obvious what they're trying to do. But enough about the negativity. I gotta say, before I thought that Batman v Superman was a 5 out of 10. I thought it was a 50% movie.
Yeah.
Now, 8 out of 10. 8.5 even.
I'd give it a good solid 7.5. I really liked it. I thought it was it goes from being such a disappointment to really being very good. It's
still problems.
There's still problems, still and there's still a tinge of disappointment where if only we could have just seen it. If only Warner Brothers had the foresight to say, "Hey, we trust this movie enough to just go ahead and release this." Like, imagine the critical and financial revenue they would have gotten. I mean, the movie did fine when all was said and done, but it probably would have hit $1 billion if it had been that much better, and it was that much better.
I gotta say, what Warner Brothers? That's my whole thing right here. After seeing this and realizing that you guys had a good movie and clearly worked very hard on it, and you ruined it. You threw out half the movie. You threw out the connective tissue of the movie. And you ruined it. Batman v Superman is a bad movie, the theatrical cut. The movie that it used to be, before they sliced it up and took out all the connective tissue that made the movie make sense, was a great movie.
Yeah, it's terrific.
With some problems, but it was a great movie. It was just as good as Man of Steel, in my opinion. It really was. It better in some ways, honestly. Just as good as Man of Steel. If you just hate Zack Snyder in general, then this probably won't change it whatsoever. If you thought the movie was too dark, this ain't going to change your mind. No. If you just generally don't like it,
if you're just, a lot of people just don't like Superman.
Right.
And that's a big part of it too.
And we love Superman.
Yeah.
So
exactly.
We're rooting for him to get more screen time.
That's that was the really the hurtful part of that theatrical cut is that Superman kind of came off like a chump, an unlikable. Oaf or something, and this really goes a long way in fixing that, and I'm very appreciative.
At the end of the movie, when Superman is spoiler, when he's killed by Doomsday, I actually really felt something this time. I teared up, and I always thought that scene was great. The music was great in the movie, in the actual theatrical cut. But here, seeing that Clark went on this journey, this really tragic journey where he just nothing went right. He was accused of being this monster. He went out, and was with the people and did all this great investigative, journalism stuff. Made a concerted effort to understand Batman, and investigate him more. More of the Vision Quest stuff where he's on the mountain about them saying he's going there to commit suicide.
Yeah.
I mean, this is deep stuff. And by the end of the movie, when you see Lois grab his body and and the cape is draped around him and stuff, it is tragic.
It's very touching.
It is tragic. When he tells Lois that she is his world, it means something more to me. It means something a lot more. Those are our thoughts. I gotta say,
it's my final word on the movie is in terms of in the context of the edit, why it was edited, why the need for this cut exists. Warner Brothers' decision was obviously based on time, like I said before.
Yes.
They wanted to cut through drama to make you get to the action quicker. The problem was that there wasn't enough action to fill the movie in the first place, even the 2.5-hour cut. So what they did was they cut the dramatic legs out from under it. It didn't need as much action if the drama made sense. If people can follow a movie, they don't need something crazy going on every 5 or 10 minutes. But they made it, unfollowable. And
aside from the Africa sequence at the beginning, it was a nickel and dime deleted scene cut.
Yeah.
Where they took out every little just thing that would pop up that they were like, maybe we can get rid of this and this and this. You do that so often, you compromise the integrity of the entire movie. You destroy it.
Just like a house, you can't take out 6 or 7 bricks or
and
or
expect
2x4s or whatever, and
it just won't. It's going to tumble down. They played a dangerous game of Jenga, and boy, they lost. When they took out those last few Jenga bricks, they ruined it.
Just a few too many.
And they took some out at the bottom, and that was the Africa sequence. And the whole thing come down because of it. Everything.
The whole integrity. And, the truth is, the movie would have been better, it wouldn't have even needed a whole 30 minutes back in for it to make sense. They could have cut 10 minutes back into the movie.
Oh, yeah.
And it would have been much more, much more easy to follow. So, just such poor... you would think that this is almost the most important film in Warner Brothers history. This is what defines them for the next, 10 or 15 years. for their own shared universe, and they just, I don't know, they weren't willing to hedge their bets right. They didn't give Snyder the right chance that he needed. I understand their reservations, but they made their choice and they're going to have to live with it.
Yeah, they've ruined it because 99% of the people that watch the theatrical cut are never going to see this ultimate cut. They will never know that there was a good movie there ever. And that's the sad thing about ultimate and director's cuts. Most folks, I don't know, with this movie, let's be optimistic. Let's say 5% of the people, and that's being optimistic. 5% of the butts in the seats that saw the original version will get to see this version. And that is a tragedy. And I'm ashamed because I said such horrible things about Zack Snyder for the past
several months,
and said just what a hack he was and how much I agreed with people that all this whole time he's just been the worst. And then I get to see his real version of the movie and I'm like, oh, come on.
He's done it again.
Guys, he did a good job. Yeah. How could you do this to him? How could you... this sounds like a paid endorsement or something, but no, we're ripping Warner Brothers apart, so it can't be paid, and plus we're poor. So, but seriously though, I feel bad about the whole thing. I feel worse for Zack Snyder than anybody. I feel worse for Ben Affleck than anybody.
Yeah,
Henry Cavill got his movie took out from under him.
Yeah,
just horrible. But you know what? All we can say is, guys, get out there.
If you want this tone and this quality of film to continue, go out and buy this cut.
Yes.
Support the idea that this is the better version of the film. Make it, obvious to Warner Brothers. So keep spreading the gospel, and maybe, who knows. I just wish we would have seen it theatrically. I would have liked to have, for a Fathom event or something, just be able to go see it. If they did it now, I'd still go. Even though I've just watched it, I would still go see it in the theater.
Yeah, I'd buy a ticket. Yeah, I'd go. Because I want to erase my memory of seeing the other version and see this version.
That's the issue. Yeah.
All right, guys. Well, I believe that we're about out of time.
Yeah.
And I want to thank Brandon for coming down to the studio down here.
Yeah.
And, coming down, sharing his thoughts as
Absolutely.
always. And we're just delighted to have you all. If you want to hear more podcasts, more discussion videos.
Yeah, I think maybe we should do... I mean, it's a little late to the game, but I'm thinking we might do Ghostbusters next.
That would be a lot of fun.
Because we got
a lot of complex opinions about Ghostbusters, and you might be surprised what we think.
Yep.
So we were surprised.
Yeah.
That's all I'll say. But
we sure appreciate
we appreciate you
listening, folks. You all take care, and until next time, this has been Brandon.
This has been Jared.
Fanboys Forever, signing out.
God bless you.